I want you to think about what truly makes a good duo boss. Is it the difficulty? Is it the unique environment where the arena is? The varying movesets of each combatant? Or is it the compatibility of the two working together? All of these do make a good boss. However, I would say making a good boss duo is the combination of all of these put together while not having one overpower the other. And what better example of this is Ornstein and Smough. Hello everyone. Today I welcome you to the first episode of Boss Retrospective, a series to analyze and critique every major boss in the Dark Souls trilogy. I'm going to discuss the gameplay, music, lore, arena, and its overall impact on the series. To remain fair to the boss, I'm going to look at how the player perceived this fight when it first came out. I'm doing this because it isn't very fair to compare Dark Souls 1 bosses to Dark Souls 3 bosses, since they're almost entirely different games. I think if you plop Gale into the first game, it wouldn't be a very good boss fight, because he wouldn't fit in with the game's combat system, and vice versa. I'm strictly going to look at how good that boss is in its respective game, and then rank it with all the others. With that out of the way, let's begin. Once landing in Anor Londo, being carried by these weird white brain bat things, you're stunned by how drastically different this place looks compared to the rest of Lordran. All of Lordran is either dead or in the process of dying, with crumbling buildings and horrible creatures covering the streets. In contrast, the Kingdom of Anor Londo is very bright and clean, with enormous towers and churches that bring a scale that we haven't seen yet in this game. The pure elegance is so spectacular, you can't help but stare at the seemingly endless city. However, after Gwyn left his city for the gods, it soon fell to become dormant, only occupied by his most loyal of knights, protecting the throne. Once at the Great Staircase, all that's left is to meet whoever is inside. Through some questionable architectural design and some bullshit enemy placement, you finally make it inside of the cathedral and meet with the greatest warriors Gwyn left behind. When you enter the fog wall, you will see a rather large warrior branding a giant hammer, protecting the very throne of Gwyn. Above on the balcony, you'll see another warrior branding armor resembling a lion and wielding a spear. Jump down and meet with the other. Smough was once an executioner in the city of Anor Londo. He served under Lord Gwyn, one of the most powerful beings in the world at the time. Smough was known for his sadistic tendencies and brutal methods of execution, which earned him his fearsome reputation among the residents. One popular theory is that Smough was consumed by his sadistic tendencies and cannibalistic desires. His massive size is attributed to his habit of consuming the bones of his victims, explaining his grotesque appearance. It's also suggested that he may have been influenced by the corruption and darkness that had begun to spread throughout Lordran. On the other hand, Ornstein was one of the 4 Knights of Gwyn, renowned for his exceptional combat skills and unwavering loyalty to his lord. As a dragon slayer, Ornstein wielded a formidable spear imbued with lightning, which he used to defeat the ancient dragons during the Age of the Ancients. After the defeat of the dragons, Ornstein continued to serve Gwyn during the Age of Fire. He became the captain of the 4 Knights and was tasked with protecting Anorlando, the city of the gods. One of his most important duties was to guard Princess Guinevere, one of Gwyn's children and the deity of her own right. Guinevere was a symbol of hope and light, and her presence maintained the illusion of a thriving age despite the encroaching darkness. However, soon after Gwyn left the capital, Ornstein left as well, on a path to find Gwyn's long-lost son, and his mentor, the Nameless King. The Ornstein protecting Guinevere is just an illusion, constructed by Gwyn's youngest son, Gwendolyn, in desperation to keep his father's city from falling to the darkness. Before I talk about the actual boss fight, I have to discuss the environment. A boss arena can be used for more than just a battleground where you and the boss duke it out. A good arena is one where it is both unique and visually interesting to look at. Not like most that are just dark rooms or plain rooms with almost nothing interesting going on. This arena is a massive cathedral with multiple pillars spanning across the whole room. The bright sunlight illuminating through the massive windows with giant statues of Gwyn's family and his knights give character and life to a mostly dead world. This is the first arena that doesn't feel dead and full of despair. This is very jarring and truly shows the elegance of this city. And I'm just going to say it. This is the best looking arena in Dark Souls 1. No competition. Along with the arena, these two have the most underrated part of any boss going for them: the music. A good soundtrack for a boss is supposed to amplify and thematically fit with what is happening. A great example of this would be Gehrman from Bloodborne, as the sad tone fits narratively with what is happening in the fight. But there are other things music can do for a fight besides amplifying. Some good boss tracks try to immerse you into the fight itself. The music helps you visualize the fight without even being there. And I believe that Ornstein and Smough is a great example of this. With the blasting horns and choir singing even louder with a crescendo up until the climax of the song displays some sort of heroic battle is taking place. Ornstein and Smough can be portrayed as heroes of Anorlando, protecting the daughter of Gwyn from the chosen undead. With the instruments the song is played, one can also know where and when this battle is taking place. The higher pitch of the horns and vocals make it seem as if the battle is taking place in the day. After the peak of the horns and vocals, you can hear the pipe organs play, which is an instrument that is mostly associated with churches and cathedrals, which is exactly where this fight takes place. The ONS theme is a great example of what a boss theme should be, and I think it is sadly overlooked when compared to others in this franchise. When the battle starts, you will quickly notice the difference between Ornstein and Smough, as Ornstein will gun for you in less than 5 seconds, while Smough takes his sweet-ass time to get over to you. Ornstein is the faster of the two, always trying to get right up close and personal. He has swiping attacks, stabs, quick dashes, and lightning attacks that he can use at a distance. On the other hand, Smough is the slower and bulkier of the two that does immense damage if he lands a hit on you. He does swiping attacks, ground pounds, and his most dangerous attack is the hammer charge. It is not the individual movesets of these two that make them so great. It is how well the different movesets work together to make both a fair and challenging fight fun. They work in almost perfect harmony together and take turns attacking the player. One will almost always stay back while the other is attacking, so it is fair for the player. One is always fast and the other is always slow. It allows you to use what they think is their strength as a weakness. Ornstein is fast, but you can use that speed to lead him away from Smough, and Smough is so big and bulky that it is very easy to hit him. Honestly, the only negative I can think about for this fight is that sometimes they both become the aggressor and attack at the same time. But luckily for you, the arena has provided you with the tool. The giant pillars are supposed to be used to split up the duo, so you only have to worry about one of them for a short time. This was the perfect way to make a duo boss actually fair, while still keeping it a challenge. The pair would not work this well if there were no obstacles to split them apart. And I just want to say, having some of the environment be destructible really helps add to some more spectacle to the fight. Once one of them falls, a cutscene will play showing the one you left alive gain their fallen knight's powers. If Smough lives, he crushes his fallen comrade with his hammer and gains his electrified attacks. If Ornstein lives, he rests his hand on Smough's body and begins to grow to be even larger than him, and gains a new grab attack and ground pound ability. On one hand, I think this is a very cool idea to see the still alive fighter gain his fallen knight's abilities and you get to 1v1 them, but I don't think it was used to its fullest potential, especially if you keep Smough alive. When you fight Mega Smough, he gains basically 0 new moves except for his electrified ground pound that he can't help but do over and over again. Ornstein is better, but still not the best possible. He does gain around 2 or 3 more attacks, including a grab attack and electrified ground pound, but the fight just ends up being just like any normal giant enemy type. You dodge their one attack, then walk behind them, then you attack and repeat. I know you can say that about a lot of bosses in the series, but literally the boss before this is the Iron Golem, which is almost the exact same. The fight just isn't as intense or well thought out as the first phase, and it doesn't even need you to use the pillars, which is what made the boss work. If the surviving boss was to gain more of their fallen comrades' powers, I think the second phase could have been one of the best. However, I did say, and forever will say, that this is a perfect duo boss, but sadly, not a single boss. After the great champions of Anor Londo fall, you make your way up the elevator to see what, or rather who, they are guarding. The daughter of Guinevere. She claims you have proven yourself a worthy successor to Gwyn, and gives you the Lord Vessel to relink the flame and cure this crumbling world. All in all, this was an incredible boss fight. The build-up and visuals truly are spectacular, with a soundtrack that matches with the environment perfectly. The boss fight itself is nothing to slouch on either. The duo work in harmony while also being very different both design-wise and theme-wise. It is only in the second phase when this fight becomes no longer excellent. It is just a giant enemy that has slow attacks and loves to do the ground pound over and over again. Even with Ornstein being better than Smough, it still ends up being relatively the same. But I can't give it too much flack, since the rest of this fight is so good. This is more than a great boss fight. This is what I consider the first great boss in the game, and one of, if not the best duo boss in the entire series. This is the boss fight that every other boss fight should strive to be as good as. Ornstein and Smough has always been considered a top 3 boss in Dark Souls 1, and I think it deserves that place. My final rating for Ornstein Smough is a 9.4 out of 10. S tier.